Morning everyone, and welcome back to the Runpreneur vlog, where we discuss all things entrepreneurship and running. It is a very windy morning today. I think it's 6 degrees, but it feels like -1 because the wind is so strong. I think it's Storm Christopher, I believe, is hitting the UK at the moment, so fun and games. And it is Thursday Tales today, where I discuss all my past experiences in business. And today's topic is my no money down property strategy mistake. Okay, so remember, if you like this episode, please remember to give it a like and a subscribe, and let's get started. So, no money down. Now, those of you who've been in the property game for, say, 10 years or so, will know that no money down was a pretty profound strategy back then. Now, more recently, it's become increasingly harder to do as kind of lenders and solicitors have changed. Financial Services Authority have kind of changed the rules and regulations, and it's to legally structure a deal in a no money down fashion now is far more challenging than it used to be. So obviously I've got a big portfolio. At its peak, I think I had 96 properties, 40 HMOs, 36 service accommodation apartments, lots of single lets, so big portfolio. Now, the way I built that was predominantly through no money down strategies back in the early day. Now, the way kind of no money down evolved is, but it wasn't, it was pull a shed load of negative equity out with the first strategy, which is ultimately, those of you that have been around for a long time will remember the Mortgage Express in the UK, and they had a crazy refinancing product, which was a 125% loan to value. So, say your property's worth 100 grand, they would give you 100 grand, they'd give you £125,000 loan. So you'd be in negative equity by 25 grand. For varying reasons. I missed the boat on this. Unfortunately I did, because so many people got into so much negative equity that Mortgage Express called a load of loans in and wiped a lot of people out. So I missed that, but ultimately back in those days you were getting paid 25 grand to buy a 100 grand property. It was absolutely ludicrous. It was a same day remortgage. It wasn't a purchase, a straight off product. You had to buy a property, do something to it, and then remortgage it on the same day. But ultimately you were getting paid huge sums of money, and it was seen as tax free because it was a loan as well. So because it's a mortgage as a loan, you can't get taxed on a loan. So it was people pulling out all this negative equity against their properties, over leveraging them to the hilt, being paid for it, thinking this is a new strategy, failing to have the foresight that unless properties go up 25% in value, we're sitting in negative equity on a negative equity portfolio, and hence a lot of those have gone. I got in on the kind of second wave of no money down stuff, where I was using kind of restrictions on properties, so option agreements. So in the same scenario, let's say it's a £100,000 property. Okay, in order for me to do no money down, I would have to negotiate a below market value deal, and usually this would be directly with a vendor, because you'd never get these discounts through agents. And we'd learn about this, and we were always quite delicate about the whole thing, because these are people you're buying from who are extremely motivated, who are about to lose their houses. There could be a number of reasons why they're desperate to sell the house so quickly and for so cheap. And we were always conscious of not being vultures, because there were a lot of people that were kind of taking the shirt off their backs as well, and we wanted to obviously stop them losing their house, but also give them a few grand in the back pocket to kind of move on with their lives. And that was always the model. And there were plenty of deals. You didn't have to be greedy. And ultimately, in this example, we'd have the £100,000 property. We'd negotiate the purchase for 75. Now, you would need two unrelated parties here, and this is where me and my former business partner worked quite well together. Like, one of us would negotiate the deal direct, so it would be for X amount. We'd then put a restriction on the property, meaning that they couldn't sell it to anyone else for a period of time. It would usually be 6 months, 3 months as a minimum. And then I would then, or the third party would come in and buy the property at full market value, so 100 grand. And we'd be completely transparent with the vendor, so they knew how this was working. And ultimately, it would go through the standard conveyancing process. But when the searches were done, it would flag up this restriction that my former business partner would have had on the property. And when contacting him to remove the restriction, he'd say, yeah, it's fine, but I want £25,000 to remove the restriction. So it's a 100 grand property that you're buying it for. You're getting a 75% loan to value mortgage product, so you're having to put £25,000 down, but we know that the real price we're actually buying it for is £75,000. So ultimately that £25,000 I put in goes into the deal to get the finance at £100,000, and then the purchase price has gone through at £100,000, so it's all above board, and then my £25,000 deposit has then been paid to my former business partner through the process to remove his restriction, and ultimately then he'd give the money back to me and we go do it again. And we did that 40 or 50 times, hence we had a big portfolio, and then just traditionally recycling the money. And it was a good way to do it because we were securing 25% equity in each of these properties, so they all had equity in them. It wasn't like the Mortgage Express where they were all in negative equity. This was, you were all in positive equity, and as a result then when we started refinancing on a more traditional method, once we could no longer do this model, you'd pull money out and then reinvest it, and that's how we grew it to kind of 96 properties. So you're thinking, oh, this sounds all great. Well, one, you can't do it anymore. You can structure kind of back-to-back deals in a commercial sense now, but they're notoriously tricky. Valuers are more au fait with kind of these creative strategies now, so we'd often be more cautious in valuations, which means it's far more difficult to structure these deals. The kind of the most typical way people do no money down now is no money left in, which is predominantly buy a property that's in a poor state of repair, do it up, possibly improve it with some changes in structure and layout, maybe an small extension, and then refinance it at the higher value and hope that you can pull all of your money back out. Now, it's very rare to do that. Some people do it exceptionally well. I've never done it. I've never been particularly good at it, but that is the kind of more standardised way people kind of pull all their money out of their investments now, and be able to reinvest and move on. So where does this fit in with the mistakes? Well, okay, I won't call it a big mistake because ultimately it was so poignant in the growth of my property business. But what I will say the mistake is that when you get a taste for doing a no money down deal, you can often turn a blind eye to more traditional due diligence that you would do when you're putting large sums of money in. Sorry, it's so cold, it's so windy. I think that's probably what happened. Two things really that happened that I classed it as a mistake. Is one, we didn't do our due diligence properly on some of them because it's just too good to be true. You know, you're getting a property for nothing, and with 25% equity in it, why wouldn't you just take anything and everything? And that was the mindset we had, which was wrong, because as a result, you know, I talk quite openly about my portfolio. It's all over the country because I was going where, this is the second mistake, which is I went wherever the deal was. I didn't care. We're buying property for no money. So whether it was, you know, the South Wales or in Scotland, you know, the kind of range of where I have houses, you know, we just bought it. And as a result, you get this new logistical nightmare of managing. You also have bought property in some pretty grim areas. You know, I've got houses that 10 years ago, they're probably worth less than they were 10 years ago because they're in such a depressed area. But, you know, they've cash flowed okay, or cash flowed occasionally okay. So some of them have been loss making over the years, which has been horrendous when you think you put nothing in, how can you make a loss? Well, if you can't get them tenanted, or the tenants keep damaging the properties and all those side of things, and all the kind of operational running costs of a portfolio, management, dealing with agents and stuff, these are all things that should have been picked up in the due diligence. And the biggest mistake was we didn't do enough due diligence, so we got lucky as well. I mean, for example, it's a property in London that we didn't do a lot of due diligence on. Got it for 199 grand. It's recently valued up at 475. So you get the wins like that, and then you get other wins where I bought one for 130,000 in Berkshire, and it's recently valued up at, I think, just over 300 grand. So, you know, you get these wins like that, but then, you know, there are houses that I bought for £42,000 that are like 25 grand worth now. So it's yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've won on the overall, absolutely, but with a bit more strategy, a bit more experience, I would have perhaps been able to remove the troublemaking properties at the purchase, rather than having run them for 10 years and struggled with them and lost money on them and had headaches and time and stress, overwhelm, anxiety from running them. So the two biggest mistakes with the no money down strategy that I kind of exercised was, one, I because it was so too good to be true, I kind of canned the due diligence, and number two, I didn't count on the area either. I was buying properties for nothing and getting 25% equity. Why wouldn't you? Well, you wouldn't when you buy a shed load that don't perform as you hope they would. So that's a big lesson there. So to summarise, you know, the learning outcomes from this is that if something does seem too good to be true, don't just disregard it, because quite often it is a really viable option. However, take your time, don't rush into stuff, and make sure you look at worst case scenario. And I didn't look at worst case scenario. I was young, naive, and I'm getting blown off the road. I was young, naive, and my eyes were kind of blinkered by the opportunity as opposed to the reality. And I think that's a good summary. Don't get blinded by the opportunity. Make sure you take a reality check before you actually proceed. If you do that, these opportunities, when they do present themselves, you execute on them in the optimised fashion. Because I could have potentially bought maybe 2/3 of what I did buy, and it would only be like a third of them that perhaps weren't performing as they should. But how optimised and how more profitable my portfolio would have been without the loss-making ones, or the ones that caused me headaches and stress and anxiety, I can't tell you what the compounding impact of that would have been over 10 years. It would have been, I could have bought a load of more properties, better ones. So you don't know how these things kind of have a kind of a sequencing effect on what happens in the future. So I hope this has been useful. It's a little bit of a story to what's happened in the past for me. There are people still doing no money down, doing it very effectively, if that is something you want to do, but it's rarely possible without either borrowing money from an outside investor or putting money in and then trying to refinance it all out at the end. So it's normally no money left in. I mean, the stuff I was doing was no money left in, because we still had, you know, 25-30 grand that we just recycled as a deposit, but we borrowed it but never put it at risk, you see, at the time. So it was just using it as a mechanism of the purchase. We knew we were getting it out every time. So it's a little bit different. But when you start doing stuff where you're trying to pull money back out of a deal and there's not a robust way to do that, then it becomes slightly riskier. And especially with other people's money, whether that's a lender or somebody else, you need to treat it with the utmost respect and ensure you pay it back. Otherwise, again, with personal guarantees, etc., you're probably going to have to use, it can wipe you out if you're not careful. So that's pretty much it for me today. As always, if you've got any questions on this stuff, drop me a comment. I'll respond to every one. If it's a bigger topic, I'll do a separate blog episode and tag you in. If this is irrelevant information to you, just unfollow me on your social feeds. You can still remain friends, but just unfollowing will stop it cluttering up your personal feeds. But before you do that, please check out the YouTube Runpreneur channel, whereby I do a different topic on every day of the week. So just because today's may not be relevant, there may be some other topics that I do throughout the week that are super relevant. So check that out, and it's a completely free resource that you can dip in and out of on an ad hoc basis. Also check out the Facebook Runpreneur community group, where I host my free resources that accompany the blog. The first one being how to stop it being so windy. No, I'm joking. The first one being my 70-step process to repurposing, reformatting, optimising your social content across all platforms. So if you are looking to put more content out there in a more optimised and unique per platform type way, then check out that checklist. It'll be super helpful for you. So that's pretty much it. All left to say is that the Runpreneur blog was set up to help entrepreneurs and business owners overcome the emotions of stress, which can lead to overwhelm, which can lead to anxiety and mental health challenges, by using exercise, or in my case running, as a release mechanism, a release valve to control the stress levels and the pressure, to enable me to keep clarity, focus and thrive under these conditions that every entrepreneur experiences, every single one of them. And it's the difference between success and failure in many cases for the entrepreneurs who do it well and have that release valve, have a process of relieving the stress levels to stop getting overwhelmed and anxious. The ones that don't, the pressure builds up like pressure in a pipe in the form of stress, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until something breaks or the pipe bursts. And in those cases, one of two things happens: the entrepreneur has a mental breakdown, or the business breaks down, and either or is often terminal to the likelihood of your business lasting the test of time. So I've been there. I've lost multiple businesses because of this. I've lost multiple business partners because of these emotions, and I've nearly been bankrupt because of them. Not directly, but they've been a strong contributing factor to why I found myself in these positions, and it's horrible. And that's what, you know, motivated me to talk about this stuff. And my pledge is, look, you know what? If you're struggling and you need someone to talk to, just drop me a message. Okay, there's no catch here. I'm not going to say you anything. I just want to help people and to not experience the same things that I did. And I feel I've now got this process in my life, this routine, whereby I've taken on more than I've ever taken on. I feel completely in control. I don't feel under crazy levels of pressure, and I feel like I'm thriving. And as a result, I've made more progress in the last 6 months than I have in the previous 3 years. So entrepreneurs have reached out and touched it, and I've had calls with them already. If that is you, or if you're someone who needs that help, drop me a message. No obligation, no catch. I just want to give you a few pointers to try and help you. And if I always said that if this vlog helps just one entrepreneur or saves one business, then it's been 1,000,000% worthwhile. So that's it from me. As always, if you like this episode, please give it a like, comment and a subscribe. If you want to check out similar content, please check out the playlist link in the YouTube channel. And all that's left to say is, as always, stay positive, stay happy, and hopefully I won't be blown away. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.